charge in Washington. Chris, what America saw with the Bundy case in Nevada is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, when the Department of Ed has a SWAT team and armored tanks and cars, you got to ask yourself, where are we headed?
Yeah, you know, Glenn, it's so much craziness in so little time that, you know, they feel like the world's been turned upside down sometimes, and this is just one example of that. But I think this is the key to this. These are regulatory agencies. They're not law enforcement agencies. They don't fall under the Department of Justice. And for many, many years, they had the ability to enforce their regulations without this very heavy-handed and I think very obtrusive ability to go in and to intimidate the American people. And it's just not helpful, Glenn, and it's not necessary.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You say they don't fall under the Department of Justice. If it is an agency that follows, that goes directly under, I mean, if I may, it's a presidential police force, is it not? They only answer to the president.
Yeah, you're saying if they fall under DOJ?
No, I'm saying that if it's a regulatory agency, they don't report.
Yes.
They report directly to the president. So this is in effect a presidential police force, is it not?
Well, essentially that would be true. But here's the thing too, Glenn, is I would challenge anyone. And by the way, you have to twist yourself into pretzels to defend what some of the things we've seen here. And I would challenge anyone, show me any scenario where the Department of Education or the Food and Drug Administration has such an urgent need to enforce this regulation that they have to have this type of, again, very heavy-handed paramilitary capability. Because there isn't one. There just isn't a scenario where they couldn't turn to local law enforcement, or they couldn't turn to the FBI.
So why is this
happening?
Chris, why is this happening then?
Well, I can answer that historically. I mean, you go back to previous to 9/11, they had Inspector General capability that had the ability to investigate internal matters. But after 9/11, we gave them the ability to investigate externally. We gave them the ability to arm themselves. We gave them the ability to arrest citizens, an arresting authority that they didn't have previous to 9/11. And it's just one more example of how we really, in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the crisis after those initial attacks, we created legislation which in the long term ends up being harmful to us. Which is why I'm supporting, by the way, going back and readdressing the Patriot Act.
Okay.
Readdressing the capabilities of NSA and some of these other government agencies.
I will tell you that I am a big supporter of that. And Chris, I know I've been watching you in Congress. You're a friend of mine, full disclosure. I would have hired you here had you not felt called to go to Congress.
Glenn, I wish I would have.
No,
done
I know.
that.
I told you that. But I'm glad to see the direction that you're headed now. You're on the Appropriations Committee. Do you really believe that your bill that you're going to introduce, first explain what it's going to do, and do you believe it can actually work and will be passed?
Well, no, it's not going to pass Harry Reid. I mean, do you think anything that makes sense and is going to help the cause of freedom is going to get past Harry Reid?
No.
Because I don't. Which is why this November is so important. It's just so important that we have allies in the Senate. You know, we've got my good friend Mike Lee. We've got other people there that are trying to fight for these causes, but the reality is they don't have the capability in the Senate under the rules that they operate on to move this kind of
Congress
legislation.
has the purse strings. You are on the Appropriations Committee.
We do.
You can.
We do.
You can choke that off in the House, can you not?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. It's a much more powerful lever that we have there. There are only 12 bills which we have to pass every year, and those are the 12 appropriations bills. And that's why it's so important in my position on the committee that we really can have some influence on how these are funded. And once again, we've got to go through the reconciliation process with the Senate. The fact that I want to defund them is not enough. I have to have some support on the Senate side. But it's, again, a much more powerful position in order to push these types of issues.
Well, I will tell you, I don't know about Harry Reid, but I will tell you that we have some friends in the Senate, and many of them are mutual friends, and I'm sure they are exactly the kind of people that will stand up and support this. Chris, I applaud you, and anything we can do, and anything the listeners can do to help you, just let us know, and we'll be there.
We will. Thank you so much, Glenn. It's good to be with you, even for just a few minutes.
Thanks a lot.